Part 1. The Battlefield of Desire. Seduction has never been about love. It has never been about romance or connection. Those are illusions, weapons disguised as warmth. Seduction is strategy. It's control through perception, power wrapped in charm, and warfare fought not with armies, but with attention. Every act of seduction is a psychological game, a battle for emotional dominance. You're not trying to win someone's heart. You're trying to influence their mind. Every word, every pause, every glance becomes a calculated strike. The seducer doesn't chase. They create gravitational pull. The most dangerous seducers understand that attraction is not about being liked, but about being felt. You don't seduce with beauty. You seduce with energy, timing, and restraint. People crave what feels scarce, and they respect what they cannot easily understand. Mystery doesn't repel, it enslaves. To seduce is to become the mirror of another's desire. You reflect back what they long to see, never revealing your true form. You become both the question and the answer, the calm and the storm. They project onto you everything they secretly wish existed, and you simply let them. That's the art. Seduction thrives in uncertainty. You must learn to weaponize the unknown. When people cannot read your intentions, they will assume greatness, danger, or depth, and their own imagination will work harder than you ever could. That's psychological efficiency. And here's the truth most people can't bear to face. The moment you start explaining yourself, the spell breaks. Clarity kills desire. Transparency kills fascination. The more they know, the less they imagine, and imagination is where desire is born. Seduction is about crafting presence. You control your words, your tone, your silence. You don't rush to respond. You create tension. You allow moments to linger. You force others to sit in uncertainty, and that unease becomes obsession. They begin to chase answers that you'll never fully give. Machiavelli once observed that power is preserved not by honesty, but by perception. The seducer understands this instinctively. They know that people don't fall in love with truth. They fall in love with the illusion that gives them meaning. Never forget this. When you are calm while they crave chaos, you control the rhythm. When you remain composed while they seek reaction, you control the game. Seduction is not the art of getting someone to love you. It's the art of making them lose control of themselves in your presence. And like any form of warfare, victory doesn't go to the most emotional. It goes to the most disciplined. Part 2. The Anatomy of Control. If seduction is war, then control is your weapon. You control by creating emotional imbalance, not through cruelty, but through calculated unpredictability. The moment someone can predict your reactions, your power vanishes. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort breeds indifference. The key is to stay one move ahead, not louder, not needier, but unreadable. A seducer knows that consistency kills tension. So you must alternate between presence and absence, warmth and indifference. You appear when least expected and disappear when most desired. That absence becomes a form of psychological conditioning. They start craving your return, not because you give them pleasure, but because you give them uncertainty. Humans are addicted to unpredictability. It's why gambling hooks the brain more deeply than guaranteed reward. The seducer understands this and uses it mercilessly. You don't offer constant validation. You give fragments, enough to sustain curiosity, but never enough to satisfy it. This creates dependency. Control is not maintained by dominance, but by rhythm. The one who dictates the tempo dictates the outcome. If they text in seconds, you reply in minutes. If they expect warmth, you offer cool indifference. Every deviation from their expectation reinforces your psychological edge. But here's what separates the true Machiavellian seducer from the manipulator: restraint. You never let the game consume you. You operate above it. You understand your emotions, you feel them, but they do not guide you. You act, while others react. A Machiavellian doesn't chase pleasure. He controls it. He uses attraction as a tool, not a weakness. While most people are enslaved by their impulses, he masters his. This mastery radiates outward as confidence, the kind of calm, unshakable aura that draws others without effort. To control others, you must first control yourself. This is the first law of psychological warfare. The mind that can delay gratification, that can sit in silence without needing reassurance, that can say nothing and still command attention. That is the mind that conquers. Every great seducer has two faces, the visible one that invites curiosity, and the hidden one that observes quietly, recording every reaction. The hidden self is the strategist. It studies patterns, weaknesses, and desires. It never reveals its motives. Remember this, power isn't taken. It's given, unconsciously, by those who depend on your approval, your attention, your presence. And once they rely on it, they can no longer escape it. You become the invisible axis around which their emotions spin. Control is not physical. It's psychological, a quiet domination that doesn't need words. True seduction isn't about conquering someone else's body. It's about conquering their certainty. Once you control how someone feels about you, you control how they think about you. And in that moment, the war is already won. Part 3. The psychology of fear and desire. Every act of seduction begins in the same place, fear. Not your fear, but theirs. The fear of being unwanted, unseen, forgotten. It's the most primitive of all emotions, and the true seducer learns to speak directly to it without ever saying a word. You don't tell someone they're special, you make them wonder if they are. You don't promise them closeness, you make them earn it. Humans crave validation more than food or shelter. We want to know we matter. And when someone's sense of importance begins to depend on you, control is already yours. You become the invisible source of their worth. This is not cruelty, it's psychology. They hand you power while believing it's affection. Seduction isn't about giving people what they want. It's about giving them what they need to chase. The chase itself becomes the addiction. Their mind links you to both pleasure and pain, safety and danger, reward and punishment. That duality keeps them obsessed. You become not a person but a puzzle. The mistake most people make is trying to please others too quickly. They show all their cards, hoping to be liked. But when there's nothing left to uncover, curiosity dies. The seducer knows that desire lives in the unknown. You must feed people uncertainty like oxygen, just enough to keep them alive, but never enough to make them feel secure. Machiavelli wrote that men are driven by two things, love and fear, but when you must choose, it's safer to be feared. In seduction, that fear isn't terror. It's the fear of loss, the fear of being ignored, forgotten, replaced. The fear that you might withdraw your energy at any moment. That fear gives you gravity. When someone fears losing your attention, they start negotiating against themselves. They overthink every word, every silence, every glance. They seek reassurance you'll never give. You've inverted the balance. Now they serve your psychology, not the other way around. But to hold this kind of power, you must remain emotionally detached. Never let validation become your drug. Seduction demands self-discipline, the ability to pull back even when every impulse tells you to lean in. Because the moment you start seeking, you lose control. You must become like a shadow, always present, never graspable. You reward subtly, punish silently, and observe everything. Every reaction, every flinch, every hesitation becomes data. You're not in love, you're in command of perception. And when you master the interplay between fear and desire, people stop questioning whether they want you. They start questioning whether they can function without you. That's not attraction. That's psychological dependency, the highest form of control. Part 4. The ego trap. Every human being carries a fragile throne inside their mind, the ego. It demands to be admired, understood, and obeyed. Most people spend their lives trying to protect it. The seducer, however, learns to use it. The ego is predictable. It wants praise, it wants validation, it wants to feel powerful. Feed it too much, and it becomes lazy. Starve it completely, and it becomes angry. But if you feed it in doses, carefully, rhythmically, you can make anyone dance to your rhythm without them ever realizing they're being led. Flattery, when used sparingly, becomes a weapon. It's not about complimenting someone's looks or intelligence. It's about mirroring their deepest self-image. You make them feel seen in a way no one else has. That feeling binds them. They'll defend you, justify you, even chase you, because you've made them feel special. But the Machiavellian seducer doesn't flatter endlessly. He withholds it. He lets the ego ache for the next hit. He becomes the gatekeeper of validation, and in doing so, controls the emotional climate. You'll notice, when people seek your approval, they begin to betray their own. Most people don't realize that their ego can be used against them. Every time someone argues to prove their worth, they're already losing it. The seducer, instead, operates like a mirror. When attacked, they don't defend, they reflect. The aggressor ends up revealing their own insecurity. This is psychological judo, using their own force against them. Machiavelli knew that the world rewards appearances, not authenticity. So the wise man learns to control how others see him. The more composed you appear, the more powerful they assume you are. Even a moment of silence can make others project strength onto you. Power is rarely about action, it's about perception. To master seduction, you must master image. Not vanity, image. Because people respond not to who you are, but to who they believe you are. You must cultivate a presence that commands respect before you speak. Move slower than others. Speak less. Reveal nothing unnecessary. Let your words feel deliberate, like each one costs gold. Seduction is not about making people like you. It's about making them need your validation to feel secure in themselves. The ego craves equilibrium. When you disrupt that equilibrium, it will do anything to restore it, even if that means submitting to your frame. But here's the paradox. To use the ego, you must destroy your own. You cannot crave control and still be ruled by your need for approval. True seduction requires emotional detachment so complete that you can watch someone fall for your illusion without ever falling for it yourself. The most powerful seducers don't win people over. They let people win themselves over. They provide the spark, and the other person sets themselves on fire. Because at its core, seduction isn't a game between two people. It's a war within one mind, theirs. Part 5. The Mask of Desire. Seduction is never what it appears to be. It is not about chasing attraction, nor is it about confessing feelings, nor about revealing the depths of your desire. In truth, seduction is a battlefield of the mind, a war of perception and control. Every time you let your desire show openly, you surrender power. Desire is a currency, scarce, intoxicating, and immensely valuable. When you display it too readily, you devalue it. When you hide it behind a mask of calm detachment, it becomes priceless. Machiavelli understood this principle in politics, and it applies just as ruthlessly to the arena of attraction. The visible hand is weaker than the unseen one, and the one who controls perception commands the world. Consider the dynamics of attention. People are not seduced by presence alone. They are seduced by absence, by the gap that invites their imagination to fill in what they cannot grasp. When you allow yourself to be fully understood, you eliminate tension, and tension is the lifeblood of desire. Every pause, every measured glance, every carefully constructed silence is a tool. You are not simply a person in front of them. You are a force shaping their inner experience. To become this, you must master the art of masking your intentions. Smile when you feel indifferent. Withdraw when they crave proximity. Speak softly when others expect forceful words. Your very contradictions become a magnet, pulling them toward an invisible gravitational center, you. The mask of desire is not dishonesty. It is strategic presentation. In seduction, honesty is a weapon only when wielded sparingly. Reveal too much, and you surrender the advantage. Reveal too little, and you create frustration, but a frustration that fuels obsession. You are a sculptor of perception. Shape their expectations, shape their emotions, and shape their actions. Every word must be a brushstroke on the canvas of their desire. Every silence must carve out space in which they imagine you infinitely larger than reality. Your body may speak, but your mind rules the scene. Your presence is both invitation and test, warmth and challenge, intimacy and distance. Control your timing. The impatient are doomed to lose. The desperate hand themselves over to the whims of others. The strategic seducer operates in slow motion, calculating, observing, and striking only when the tension is unbearable. Every delayed reply, every carefully timed withdrawal, every subtle hint of interest is a calculated move in a game they do not even realize they are playing. Machiavelli wrote that a wise man does at once what a fool does finally. In seduction, the fool rushes to display his longing, while the wise man lets the longing accumulate in the other's mind until it becomes unbearable. Patience transforms desire into obsession, and obsession is the ultimate proof of control. Your mask is not passive. It is active, a tool of subtle manipulation. It is your emotional armor and your psychological weapon. While others display transparency, you cultivate mystery. While they reveal impulses, you conceal them. They will project fantasies onto you, and in doing so, they will become entangled in the web you have spun. Desire, once anchored in fantasy, becomes compliant. They begin to chase the illusion you have designed, not the reality they hope for. This is the essence of psychological seduction, creating an invisible chain in the mind of another, which binds them to you without a single demand. Finally, understand the paradox. To attract, you must resist. To seduce, you must conceal. To be irresistible, you must remain unknowable. The mask of desire is not just about allure, it is about dominance. And dominance, carefully concealed behind subtle gestures, controlled emotion, and strategic timing, is the ultimate form of psychological warfare in human connection. Part 6. The Strategic Withdrawal Expanded. The final piece of the seduction puzzle is mastery over absence. Presence alone does not create desire, only contrast does. When you are ever present, you become ordinary. When you are scarce, you become extraordinary. The strategic withdrawal is the art of vanishing just enough to make your absence felt, to turn attention into longing, to convert curiosity into obsession. Machiavelli, though never speaking of romance, codified this principle in the political arena. Scarcity and unpredictability create power, and the same law governs attraction. When you withdraw, you create a void, a space into which the other must project their desires, fears, and fantasies. That void becomes a theater where they act out your influence without realizing it. Every retreat must be deliberate. You do not disappear because you are disinterested. You disappear because your absence amplifies the weight of your presence. People are not trained to desire what they always have. They desire what teases them, what challenges them, what eludes them. By controlling your proximity, you control the emotional climate. You dictate when they feel satisfaction and when they feel craving. You teach them that attention is earned, not given freely. Withdrawal is not merely physical, it is psychological. You manipulate their anticipation, their expectation, their emotional rhythm. In conversation, in gestures, in moments of silence, you create patterns that they subconsciously seek to decode, yet can never fully predict. In doing so, you place yourself above the emotional tide. You are not swept away by their reactions. You dictate the flow of energy between you. Machiavelli emphasized that perception outweighs reality. In seduction, the perception of scarcity, of mystery, of control, carries more power than any explicit display of desire. Timing is critical. Withdrawal is most effective when it follows subtle signals of interest. Too early, and it appears indifferent. Too late, and it appears reactive. The wise practitioner studies their counterpart like a battlefield, mapping emotional peaks, observing attachment, testing resilience. Every pullback is a probe, every return a calculated reward. This is not cruelty, it is mastery. Your goal is not to create suffering, but to sculpt longing. Obsession is the natural outcome when desire is met with intermittent reinforcement, a psychological lever that few understand but all respond to. Observe their reactions. Some will chase aggressively, some will retreat in frustration, some will miscalculate and expose weakness. Each response provides intelligence. The patient strategist learns which behaviors are malleable, which emotions are exploitable, and which impulses are fixed. You do not act based on impulse. You act based on calculated observation. Each move reinforces your control, and each absence becomes a tool of authority. The strategic withdrawal culminates in the ultimate paradox. The less you show, the more they feel. The less you give, the more they crave. The more you withhold, the more they surrender. Desire thrives on scarcity, and you create scarcity not by being cruel, but by being deliberate. By controlling what they see, when they see it, and how they experience it, you shape reality in their minds. They chase not a person, they chase an idea, a fantasy, a need that only you define. In the end, the mastery of absence is mastery of the mind. You are no longer a participant in their emotional narrative, you are its author. Withdrawal is a weapon, subtle yet unstoppable, turning attraction into obsession and desire into submission. Machiavelli's lessons echo here. Power lies not in abundance, but in measured restraint, in the silent assertion of control, and in the unseen hand that guides without being noticed. Those who understand this principle become untouchable, not through dominance alone, but through the invisible chains they place upon the psyche of another. Part 7. The power of emotional manipulation. At this stage, seduction is no longer a matter of charm, presence, or absence alone. It is the orchestration of emotion. You are no longer reacting, you are dictating. Every emotional response your target has been anticipated, provoked, or subtly guided by you. The ultimate seducer understands that feelings are the battlefield, and psychological dominance is the weapon. Machiavelli wrote extensively about the manipulation of public perception to maintain power. Seduction is simply the private, intimate equivalent of that principle. In the microcosm of human desire, emotions are currency, and mastery over them is absolute influence. Begin with observation. Every glance, word, and gesture reveals hidden patterns. What inspires excitement? What triggers doubt? What produces longing? You catalog these responses quietly, invisibly, creating a mental map of vulnerabilities and desires. Then, you act with deliberate intent. A smile here, a pause there, a carefully delivered compliment, or a seemingly indifferent retreat. Each action is designed to produce a specific psychological effect. Over time, this repetition conditions the other person. They begin to feel that their emotional highs and lows revolve around your behavior. You are no longer a participant. You are the axis around which their emotional world spins. The seducer does not merely provoke attraction. They provoke dependency, but not in overt ways. Dependency arises from uncertainty, from the careful calibration of satisfaction and denial. You deliver pleasure, attention, or affection only in measured doses, ensuring that the other experiences both joy and craving, contentment and frustration. This intermittent reinforcement is a psychological lever that taps into instinctual drives, creating a cycle of desire that feels unstoppable to the person caught in it. They begin to chase your validation, your presence, your attention, even as they may consciously deny its importance. Machiavelli understood that fear and admiration are often stronger motivators than respect or love alone. In seduction, a subtle balance of respect, intrigue, and mild fear, fear of losing you, fear of uncertainty, enhances desire. You cultivate this by being unpredictable yet consistent, enigmatic yet reliable, distant yet essential. Emotional manipulation is not about cruelty for its own sake. It is about control, about establishing a psychological hierarchy in which your target is inevitably drawn toward you, guided by the invisible strings you pull. The art of emotional manipulation also requires self-restraint. You must never be consumed by the feelings you provoke. You cannot betray eagerness or attachment, for that destroys the tension you have so carefully cultivated. Instead, observe, adjust, and execute with precision. Your goal is not merely to seduce. It is to dominate, to ensure that their emotions, thoughts, and expectations are aligned with your influence. This is a subtle, silent power, invisible to all but the perceptive, and when wielded correctly, it leaves the other person completely ensnared without ever realizing the mechanics behind their obsession. Finally, understand the paradox. The closer they feel to you, the more they are under your control. The more you withhold, the more they give. Desire becomes a mirror reflecting your intentions, magnifying your power in their mind. Seduction at this level is not a game of presence. It is a war of perception. The one who controls the emotional landscape controls the outcome. And once you master this, you are no longer merely alluring. You are irresistible, untouchable, and dominant in ways that few can ever comprehend. Part 8. The ultimate strategy, becoming the psychological apex. The culmination of all these strategies, masking desire, strategic withdrawal, emotional orchestration, is the transformation into a psychological apex, someone who is both present and absent, revealing and concealing, controlling and enigmatic. At this point, seduction ceases to be about individual actions or gestures. It becomes an overarching state of influence, a gravitational field of the mind. Others orient themselves around you, not consciously, but inevitably, drawn by a combination of curiosity, desire, and fear. Machiavelli's principle is clear. Power is the result of perception, and seduction, when mastered, is the ultimate expression of psychological power. At this level, everything you do is deliberate. Every glance, word, and gesture carries weight because it exists in a carefully constructed narrative. You are no longer simply attractive. You are a force. People respond not to what you say or do in isolation, but to the patterns, contrasts, and tensions you create. Your consistency is your weapon, your unpredictability, your shield. They cannot pin you down, define you, or predict your next move, and in that uncertainty lies your ultimate power. Consider the social dynamics around you. Those who are attentive become unwitting participants in your strategy. They interpret your actions through the lens you create, filling in gaps with admiration, longing, and obsession. You guide their perceptions with precision. Small gestures are magnified, absences are interpreted as mystery, and emotional manipulations are internalized as undeniable truth. Every interaction becomes a chessboard, every response a calculated move, and every perception an opportunity to deepen influence. You do not act blindly. You act as an architect of reality, shaping it in the minds of others before it even exists in the physical world. But with great psychological power comes responsibility, at least the responsibility to maintain it. The apex seducer never loses composure. They do not become ensnared by desire or vanity. They maintain detachment even while orchestrating emotional entanglements. This detachment is itself a magnet, signaling confidence, control, and dominance. Others sense that they are dealing not with a mere participant, but with a master of the social and emotional landscape. Your influence is both visible and invisible, tangible yet ethereal, immediate yet enduring. The final truth of seduction is paradoxical. To be desired, you must resist. To dominate, you must conceal. To be irresistible, you must remain unknowable. Every lesson, masking desire, withdrawing strategically, orchestrating emotions, serves this singular purpose: to establish a psychological hierarchy in which you occupy the apex. Others chase, speculate, obsess, and adapt to you, yet they never fully understand why. This is the ultimate form of control, the highest manifestation of Machiavellian strategy applied to human interaction. In the end, seduction is not about conquest in the traditional sense. It is about perception, influence, and control. It is the art of creating desire that is both inevitable and uncontrollable. Those who understand these principles move beyond simple attraction. They become forces of nature in the minds and hearts of others. And in that mastery, you do not simply seduce. You dominate, you influence, and you become unforgettable. Psychological warfare is not a metaphor here. It is reality. Those who master it rise to the apex, and those who do not remain ordinary, chasing shadows that are forever just out of reach.